Hey YouTube, what is going on? So in today's video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how I produced this indie rock punk something song that I created a little while ago. It started off kind of as a joke, and then I was like, you know what, this should be finished, I think, because it's kind of catchy. Um, so anyways, I'll give you guys a quick listen so you can decide whether or not you want to stick around. And yeah.
Metal, get in his car. Well, you go real fast. Yeah, you go real far. Oh, baby, drink from your bottle. Oh, baby, that's the motto. Oh, baby, straight from the bottom. Oh, baby, straight to the bottom. Oh, baby, grab your bottle. Oh, baby, that's the motto. Oh, baby, straight from the bottom.
Okay, so that's kind of the germ of the idea there. And, I didn't really have any lyrics at all when I started this, and I can't sing. So I just started messing around and did like a bit of a silly voice, and yeah, just put a bunch of crap together, and this came out. So, anyways, aside from the singing, I think the rest is okay. So we'll get into the guitar bit here. So let's just take a look at the main riff here. So it's a pretty simple riff. I think it's based off of like A, C, G, and D, and it's just like moving really quickly, and there's a bunch of hammer-ons and stuff like that. I'm still learning how to play the damn instrument, but anyways, so kind of poppy, punky, whatever. Let's take a listen without any of the processing on it here really quickly so that you guys can hear what it sounded like clean. Right, so you got that little piece here, and then for the chorus, I think I just played like a bunch of bar chords. So yeah, it's a little bit sloppy, but I think with everything else, it works. One thing that you're going to want to notice when you're recording guitar, I recorded this DI directly into my interface and then into the computer. You'll see that there's not any section really, aside from maybe this bridge clip here, that's coming close to clipping. So for the style, I knew that I was going to be running signal into the interface fairly hot, but I didn't want to clip it because I wanted to process it later with distortion and these types of things to bring the character out, but I didn't want any digital clipping in there. So make sure you set up your gain staging correctly when you are first recording into your interface. So anyway, so then with the guitar, I kind of grouped everything here, and I put on an EQ that's just rolling off some of the lows, and I decided to opt for not just a straight cut, but just like a shelf for more of a natural kind of tone, and I was hoping not to affect the phase too much. And then I thought that the mids were a little bit muddy, so I removed some of that, and I threw it into this black box analog design saturator, which has some tube saturation emulation built into it, and so that kind of thickened the tone up a little. If we listen here, just to the guitar. So it makes things a little muddy, but it also gives a bit of character to the guitar, and you'll see I have it on a low mix amount there. And then I needed an amp, so I used an emulation through Amplitude here, and it's actually just one of their amps that I seem to like the tone the most of that. So yeah, I cranked the volume because again I wanted to get a lot of drive out of this sound and saturation, and fiddled with the EQ until I got something that I thought sounded decent enough. So yeah, that's the tone that we're getting out of that very basic chain there, really. And then for the bridge here, I think it's just like, strumming some open chords and allowing them to ring out, and then letting other parts kind of fill in to build up before the end of the song. So yeah, that's basically it for the guitar. It looks like there's an effect track on here too, and I hope it doesn't crash my computer. Okay, so there's a little bit of micro shift for chorus, a chorus effect, and I think that is automated during, yeah, so the verses don't have it, but the chorus and the end of the song, chorus and bridge, have it. So there's a subtle variation in the stereo field. So you can hear it gets a little bit wider because the chorus is going to want to be a little bit bigger. And I tuned it so that there wasn't too much, cancellation in terms of phasing and these types of things. So if I monoed the mix while I was listening back, I could still hear the guitar mostly, but I still kind of got that stereo effect that I wanted. So that's something you'll kind of want to take into account is, you can apply these types of techniques in the stereo field, but how is it affecting the mono compatibility of your mix? Because a lot of times there will be correlation problems and you'll lose a lot of the mid information. So it's a good idea sometimes to check your mix in mono, see how stereo effects are affecting the signals, and adjust as necessary. And then a final EQ cleanup. And that just gives space for the bass. And I think this little very subtle dip here was because I thought that the when I went to master this, the higher mids were kind of harsh. It might have been just the way I was playing the guitar or something. But anyways, so yeah, that's it really for the guitar. There is a little small thing here, which is so that just comes in the second verse, and basically it adds just a little bit of energy in the background here. So it's not huge, but it's something new within a second verse that hopefully keeps the listener a little bit interested. I should probably talk about the effect sense. So there's a room reverb on this track and a delay by the looks of it. So the room verb is, I'm going for that like kind of old school style, a little bit lo-fi recording. So I'm using an emulation of like an old plate delay by Arturia here. And I have set that up so that the decay is not, it's there. You can tell it's adding space, but because these chords are really thick, it's not, super long and washed out where the definition of the signal is lost. So, and then that's just blended in here. So let's go listen to that. So it's subtle, but it's there. And then there's a little bit of delay as well, which is probably an H delay. Oh, maybe it's an Echo Boy from Sound Toys. Yeah, so it's a Echo Boy Junior. And there's a little bit of low cut and high cut going on. And then I cleaned up, again, didn't opt for that full cut, just a shelf. Brought down some of the lower mids and some of the lows and highs just to give that old school kind of style of delay, reverb, whatever you want to call it. So again, it's just adding a little bit more space to that main riff there, and that's applied throughout the tracks within the track. And then what we can do, I guess, is we can move on to the bass. So for the bass, I don't think there's a ton going on. We can listen to it by itself. So I have a little bit of reverb on it because, again, the bass obviously has a lot of low end information, and I wanted it to sound like it was sitting with the other instruments within that plate reverb space, but I didn't want it to take up too much of the mix because you can start to lose, again, definition in the low end. And these tips, I think, are, for mixing at least, are relevant for a lot of different styles of music. So even if you're not making, this type of song, you can still kind of apply some of these techniques to whatever genre of music you're producing. So let's just run through here without any processing. And this tutorial is done on a whim, so I didn't group anything together. So bear with me while I click. So again, doesn't seem like there's a ton going on in terms of processing aside from that Ampeg bass amp emulator. So cleaning up a bit of mud, I suppose, with this EQ here. And taking into account while doing this where the drums are sitting. That's pretty important. The kick in this, I noticed after listening back, there's like some low end information that comes through that I really didn't like. And I ended up finishing the master just because I don't know what I'm doing. And was like, you know what, I don't care at this point because I worked on it for a bit and it's like, this is going to get nowhere anyways. So just put it out there. But yeah, there's like a little bit of low end in the kick that I decided to scoop some of the bass low end here to kind of allow that to kick low end to carry the heavier parts, I suppose, but it's too prominent. Anyways, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, we got a compressor with an attack that's set to let through. Again, when I was designing the tone of this, it's like, okay, well, the song is aggressive. I want to make sure that there's a bunch of high end within the bass that's clicky so that you can hear it punch through the mix. It's not something that I wanted to be subtle. And I have a fairly high ratio. And, there's probably, let's say, 6-7 dB of compression going on, which is a good amount, but it's bass. And I wanted that aggressive compression to allow the transient of the bass to kind of come through, poke out, be punchy, but not completely overwhelm the listener. And yeah, so then there's a bit more EQing to clean things up, I guess, here. After the compression, I didn't like what was going on with some of the signal tones, so I altered it and kind of and of course, you're never mixing in solo. You're always doing this alongside all of the other tracks. So that's something to keep in mind too, but I'm just soloing it to show you what's going on. And yeah, another thing you can do here is, this is a picked bass. So when I recorded it again directly into my interface, and my bass skills are pretty subpar. So there's a lot of dynamics going on within this waveform. And I hope that the compression would kind of bring that down so that you're not getting huge volume spikes, parts of the song where the bass is not there, and then parts where it is there. You're going to want to take that into account depending on how dynamic you want your track to be and how prevalent you want the bass to be and level you want it to be. So in this case, it's like, keep it dynamic, keep it punchy, but don't let it disappear within the mix. So it's not like completely squashed, but there is still a little bit of a natural feel to the way that the volume fluctuates. And then again, I used an Ampeg SVT VR Classic VST here for the amp. So it adds some like lower mids to the bass, I suppose, and I found that the ultra high had to be on, but I had to really pull that treble down because it was becoming too overpowering. And so I just balanced things out here, and Yeah, and then there's a clipper on this. I don't know how much it's doing. It's really just shaving off like hardly anything whatsoever. Anytime there's a huge spike, it kicks in, but I think that there's quite a lot of digital distortion that comes in when this clipper is driven harder. Like that's squashed to shit and it just doesn't sound good. So it was like, let's see if we can bring it down. Oh, that's nice. So I have to Control Z 700 times instead of it just resetting to the value. Yeah, it didn't sound good. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to, again, keep this dynamic and we'll go from there. Okay. And I think, yeah, so again, there's no stereo information really on this because it's a mono signal, but I hit bass mono on the utility and everything below 120 hertz is assured to be completely mono. Not necessary, but anyways. So that's that. This section was recorded hotter because I wanted the chorus to be a little bit louder. But again, with the way that it kind of drives all of the plugins within the chain, I think it's still, it's not like it's almost level matched, you know? So it's not like there's no bass and then a ton. It still remains fairly consistent, but there's just a little bit of variation in terms of amplitude for this chorus section.
You go real far.
So I guess some lower mids that come in there. And then, yeah, that's the chorus. Very simple in terms of the recording. Actually, listening back to that now, there's some pretty sloppy parts in there, but whatever, man. It works with everything else. And then for the bridge, I'm pretty sure I'm just copying I'm playing the roots of the chords that the guitar is playing. And it looks like I drove this section pretty hard as well as the chorus. Actually, there's some bits that are probably clipping a little, but that's okay, I suppose, in this case because of the tonality we wanted from the bass in the chorus. So yeah, that's that, and that's all grouped together and kind of melds alongside the guitar. And then when we put the drums in, I programmed all of the MIDI in and changed some of the velocities around. And I think I messed with some of the snare hits, hi-hats, all of that stuff in terms of where they're placed on the grids so that or I might have even just applied a groove. I can't quite remember. But, you know, it's not completely static. It's not completely locked into the grid. There's some element of humanness to it. And the drums are done just through an addictive drums preset, and then I just modified within here the levels of all of the different elements. I mess with the overhead mics here to give some space, I suppose, like some high-end sheen and space to the entirety of the kit. And then the room is, I think it's like pretty... Yeah, it's meshed in fairly heavily because I wanted a kind of a fatter room tone that like all of the drums were kind of glued together through this. And I think the bus is just like a compressor that was in here, and I, mess with the volume. It brings out some of the tonality of that room, I find, and makes it a little more present. So yeah, balance your levels. This honestly, listening back to this again, the snare's pretty hot. Like, not everything's perfect, but yeah, Yeah, and I think I changed like here's the snare, the main snare, different tone snare, and the hats are kind of, I'm not a drummer, but I was taking into account how many hands and feet a real drummer has, and trying to program in, using my limited knowledge, a rhythm that would work alongside everything else that was going on in the track while sounding like a real drummer had played it. Right, so there's some crashes in there, there's different hats going on. I think I programmed in some fills, which again seems to work okay, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So verse to chorus, there's more energy, there's hats within the chorus here. So that injects a bit more energy within the chorus, and then it goes back to the verse, which has more basic elements. And for the second half, it just gives a little bit more energy in that second half of the chorus. And then I think we run into a part where there are no drums in the second chorus. Which I also forgot to talk about this. There's a chorus lead within here that just, again, the first chorus doesn't have anything other than vocals, drums, guitar, and bass, I believe. And it's like, okay, we're going into the second chorus now. We're dropping the drums, but without the drums and just having those other elements, it didn't quite work. So I added in a little chorus lead that I played here directly in again, and very similar processing, I believe, to the main guitar. And why I didn't organize the project better, I don't know, but who cares? And it looks like there's a different type of delay. I guess this is where the H delay is. So I have an H delay on here, which gives some space. And then the verb. So it's a subtle effect, but it adds a little bit of space. And, you know, this element coming in within the second chorus gives a feeling that the song isn't just repeating, that there's some sort of progression going on. Back to the drums here. So then for this part, so that part of the chorus has nothing going on, and then near the section of the bridge, I think the kick and snare come back in. Let's see. Yeah, kick and snare come back in. There's a little fill, and then we're opening it up for this little lead idea that I also wrote in for the bridge. Which is very simple. It's just kind of like a hammer on and pull off. And I think it amps up a little bit near the end to give some change. So now there's a bend involved and a little slide going on, but it's simple. So, and in terms of processing on that, again, saturation, there's, let's see what I did here. Okay, so nope, sorry, this is a Princeton, a Fender emulation. So anyways, found a tone that worked well and sat with everything else, tried to balance it in as best as possible with delay and verb. And I guess when you're writing something like this, you kind of just feel things out, try different ideas, and yeah, whatever works, right? So then into the vocals. Can't sing, but you know, it was a lot of fun making this because I was just messing about the whole time and singing stupid shit. And yeah, I'll show you guys what I did here. So I had an idea and I sang it, and again, you can see these big spikes here where my recording technique is probably very poor, but majority of the signal seems to be okay in terms of its dynamic range. It's not completely all over the place. So let's just listen. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to listen to these guys on their own. Yikes.
Don't care no more. He is a man machine.
Right? Like let's go. Those are huge. But without any processing.
Don't care no more.
Oof, that's rough. That is rough.
Oh, big baby, drink from your bottle. Oh, big baby, that's the motto. Oh.
It's really bad listening back to something that you have made when you know other people are going to be listening potentially to this too. But anyways, you know what? I can't sing, but let's just put a shit ton of effects and use it to our advantage and hope that it works. So,
don't care no more. Hey.
It looks like there's a little bit of multi-band compression.
Don't care no more.
Because the lows and mids, I was probably way too close to the mic when recording this. And there was a whole bunch of low end information that didn't need to be there. So definitely sloppy. Yeah, there you go. Pulled out a whole bunch with that EQ. Again, more low end being removed because it's just completely overwhelms the mix if you don't do that in this situation. So I hope that when you go and record your own stuff, one, you can sing, and two, well, you set up your chain right as well, and three, I suppose, you don't have to do as much of this crap, right? All of this synthetic after the fact correction that really kind of takes away from a good vocal take. So, but I'm just messing about. So then there's a clipper, I think, which mostly comes into effect for these huge peaks here.
They put the pedal to the metal. They put the pedal to the metal.
Right, because that, again, sloppy recording, huge peak. That's going to be a problem when it comes to mastering. So cut it out. And I think it cut out in a way that wasn't too abrasive in terms of, distortion going on within the whole mix.
It looks so mean.
It's not really that noticeable, so I left it in. And then there's a little bit of de-essing going on for all of the sibilants, the tss and t noises, which are generally within this range.
It looks so mean.
So, yeah, this Pro DS is great by FabFilter for capturing those peaks and bringing the signal down when there is sibilance. Then there's some Soothe.
It looks so mean. It looks so mean. It looks so mean.
Right, so it's just I don't know, maybe that's not even necessary, but it seems to kind of smooth the whole signal out. Some compression, which this is a pretty bright compressor, which is nice.
It looks so mean.
And it's not insane. Like, again, I wanted to retain some of the dynamic quality of the original recording, even though there are parts where it's all over the place. The majority of it is pretty decent, I think, in terms of level. So I didn't want to squash the shit out of it.
It looks so mean. They put the pedal to the metal and get in his car. They go real fast.
Like, I guess that's fairly heavy at 5 dB, but gain compensation to level things out. And maybe you could have gone a little bit more subtle, but at the same time, it's kind of like an in-your-face squashed effect that sits alongside the other elements within the song that are dynamic. And then the chorus has some different processing going on. I believe it's fairly similar in terms of, low-end roll-off and all that crap. So de-essing again, some clipping. Why, I'm not sure. So I guess there are some components within here that are popping out that I didn't want to affect the master too much in terms of the limiting stages. So I kind of chopped those so that I could get the mix loud enough for this style of music. Then there's some more EQ just to clean up those mids and allow the guitar and some of the bass and even drums to push through there. And more compression, yada yada yada. I feel like I definitely... What is going on here? How come I decided to move away after the compression on the main vocals? Sorry guys, let's go back into the main vocal track here, because these effect racks do a lot for the tone. So again, can't sing, decided to distort the shit out of it and give it that kind of old school, broken up, distorted sound. And use a little bit of radiator with adjustments to bass and treble and decapitator to give it saturation. So, wait one sec.
Don't care no more.
Right, so I think that's bypassed. Which...
Don't care no more. Don't care no more. Don't care no more.
So there's a little bit of saturation going on in the top end there.
Don't care no more. Don't care no more.
And it gets brighter, and I pulled out some of that bass to allow room for the lows and lower mids of the guitar and bass and drums to kind of carry the vocal, because otherwise this sounds thin by itself. But, you know, in context with everything else, it works. And I think there's another effect rack here, which is, okay, a little bit of echo, I suppose.
Don't care no more. He is a man machine.
Or maybe it's not echo, maybe Memory Man. Color, old tape, there you go. So this gives a lot of character as well to the shitty vocal.
Don't care no more. Don't care no more.
Well, it's subtle, but there's something there. And then I think...
Don't care no more.
I guess I figured there needed to be more compression, so I added some compression in. Chorus, the processing is similar.
Oh, big baby, drink from your bottle.
It's just more aggressive with a lot of the same kind of techniques. So again, I'm using that radiator, and I'm really driving it here, and bringing some of the bass and treble down. And again, gain staging by bringing the output of this whole chain down, so that after the fact, I'm not going, oh great, this sounds better because it's louder. I can listen to the dynamics. I can listen to the tonal balance in context with everything else, and have it at the same level as what was going on before. And this gives me an idea of whether or not I've actually made a decent enough decision with the coloration of the sound, which is really what, you know, mixing is. It's about balancing and coloring in a sense. You're painting a picture. So yeah, this is just a more extreme.
Oh, big baby, drink from your bottle. Oh, big baby.
Distortion rack, basically. And I don't think there's no chorus in the main vocals, but in this I put a little bit of micro shift to make them wider.
Oh, big baby, drink from your bottle. Oh, big baby, drink from your bottle. Oh, big baby.
So now there's a little bit of stereo information in the chorus, and it's just, you know, something that makes the chorus stand out from the verse in a way. And then, yeah, I guess some echo. That's fairly saturated, which obviously done to taste, but it seemed to thicken everything up, add to the tone, and gel this chorus section together with everything else. And I mean, aside from like a couple little stupid woos and stuff, right? Like, lol, 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 ha 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 ha.
Yep.
There's that woo again, and this I think because I of course changed the tempo really, or I guess the timing rather, of this vocal start as opposed to this vocal start, because I'm a pro. I had to have this section here.
Well, crap.
That little yeah bullshit to kind of give a smoother transition to this part here, so it's not quite as jarring. It's like, okay, something is coming in here. It's a subtle effect that hopefully helps the transition.
Yeah.
And then we have like a nice hip hop ad lib there, which is pretty cool. So, um, yeah, 2 Chainz and the bass god would be happy, I think. And then there's a synth section here, which is, I think I just played it off of my Arturia Microbrute, and designed it so that it would be a little keyboard section really at the end of the song to kind of finish things off. So without any effects on whatsoever. Not a huge difference, but it still has the original character, but sits with everything else a little better, I think. It's also not so harsh on the ears. So yeah, brought out some of those highs, did a little shelf cut again, boosted an area, I guess, that I liked in terms of its character, soothed for some of the harsher resonances, more saturation, which is the mix is subtle again, because I think it was like based off of a saw wave, which already is fairly rich in terms of harmonics. So too much saturation there is going to make things sound muddy, and this is supposed to be a lead. An effect rack, which adds a little bit of high, bright saturation style, and a little bit of chorus. But again, the mix is so low here. So it's not completely punishing it. It's not compressing the crap out of it through saturation and distortion. There's still some dynamic range, but it adds a little bit more character and a little bit of stereo width. And then this is just a very aggressive limiter, essentially, that wanted this part to be kind of like flat in terms of dynamics, not super crazy. Which this seems to add just a little, edge. So that you can hear the highs a little bit more and the mids get pushed down just slightly. But I found that it kind of helped with the stereo information, that chorus and a little bit of delay kind of come out a little bit better when that effect is applied. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. You just, if you have a little idea, come up with it on your guitar, which is I just plugged it in one night, started messing about, found a little riff that took me 2 seconds to write, really. And then I cheated here on the chorus with just bar chords. You don't have to go crazy. Definitely not the best player in the world, but kind of gelling different ideas together with a very limited understanding of music theory. Well, some music theory, but that it helps, but to a point. And then it's like, okay, kind of copy and paste. What could come next? I'm just going into, I guess, the idea of behind the writing of something like this, because that has to be taken into account alongside the production too, of course, which is something I still struggle with quite a bit. But anyways, I think there's somewhat of an idea that came together here. And yeah, I can't remember, I didn't talk a ton about the processing on the drums, I don't think. So sorry, we'll jump back here. But again, that low end of the kick is still very prominent even after this cut. So it could be the kit that's causing like this. There's like almost like a click down there. There's a big pokey transient that I can't seem to tame. And when you blast it in the car, it's not terrible, but it doesn't sound great. But anyways, and then just a little bit of, alongside everything else that's going on within Addictive Drums for processing, some parallel compression with this Devil Lock, and then some color with this PsyQ old school EQ. So makes them a little brighter, not doing a ton. And I think, yeah, I monoed the bass as well again. So with the drums there. And I sent everything to that plate reverb in the drums and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, kind of rambling on here. Yeah, grouped most of the music stuff into this music bus so that I could balance it alongside everything else. And I think I, probably sent this out, well. So the chorus, which is going to be a little bit louder. Let's go where drums are and everything else. So, there's some room for the mastering engineer, aka myself, to work with there. Some 8 dBs or something in and around there of dynamic range to work with, which is cool. Yeah, and I think that pretty much covers it. I hope that you guys learned something. And if you have any questions or comments in regards to this tutorial or walkthrough, please let me know and I will be more than happy to try and help out. Alrighty, take it easy.